Good day, everyone. Congratulations to those watching this presentation that have been awarded a Veterans Nonprofit Capital Program VNCP grant. My name is Sarah Antonacci. I'm an Assistant Director in Grants Administration at the Dormitory Authority of the State of New York, DASNY for short. As you may be aware, DASNY will be administering the VNCP grant program on behalf of the New York State Department of Veterans Services. The agenda for today's meeting is to provide guidance to awardees as it relates to the VNCP award letter, various DASNY reviews, as well as discussing the next steps once the reviews are completed by DASNY. At this time, all awardees should have received an email from DASNY's call center team. The email would have consisted of an award letter similar to what you are seeing on this slide and the next, as well as some other documents. This award letter is not a final commitment to disperse the grant award. The grant award is subject to compliance with the conditions set forth in the award letter, as well as the RGA, which we will be discussing in this presentation. The second page of each award letter, which is noted on the right side of this slide, will be the guide for your organization as to what will need to be returned to the DASNY call center. The grantee certification and project certification noted in the checklist that was referred to on page 2 of the award letter is attached to the award letter and looks similar to what is in this slide. Once the items requested in the award letter have been returned to the call center, a DASNY grant processor will be assigned to begin the review process. If a processor is unable to locate a document, has difficult time reading a document, or just needs additional information, the processor will reach out to you via email and hopefully by phone as well. Please be sure that you are checking your spam or junk folders if emails are not located within your inbox. Once all of the documentation that was requested has been returned, a DASNY processor will review the submission. The processor will verify the legal name of the awardee is accurate and the entity is still in compliance with the eligibility requirements of the VNCP program. This will involve making sure that the corporate documents are in the same name, and the New York State Grants Management System, Grants Gateway Document Vault, is also accurate. In other words, the legal name must be correct between the Certificate of Incorporation as well as the IRS determination letter. And in the case of those organizations created under New York State benevolent orders law, a certificate of election, along with the IRS determination letter for the parent organization, as well as a judge advocate general letter acknowledging the existence of the organization, their legal name, the FEIN name, and the appropriate list, subordinate list with your name on it. In addition, a W-9 will be requested, again with your legally incorporated name and tax ID number on the W-9. This will allow the Dormitory Authority to set you up as a vendor in our financial system for reimbursement purposes down the pipeline. Each processor will also need to be sure that the entity remains eligible under the requirements of the RGA, including the pass-fail eligibility questions that were noted in the opportunity. The New York State Grants Management Grants Reform Gateway Document Vault will be looked at to be sure that the awardee is maintaining the awardee's document vault pre-qualification status and to be sure that there is nothing striking in those documents that would raise any concern. If anything is required, again, a processor will notify the awardee. Pre-qualification is needed throughout the process. We cannot enter into a grant disbursement agreement until such time that the entity has a pre-qualified document vault. Site control is required so that the veterans organization to evidence that veterans organizations has sufficient authorization and control to undertake the project at the location. This is in the form of a deed, typically, which you can obtain through your county where the property exists, or a copy of the lease with the entity's legal name. And if the landlord requires permission before any work is completed, DASNY will also be requesting a copy of said permission. A grantee questionnaire is required. It's very similar to the vendor responsibility questionnaire that the state agencies require when going to contract. As a trustee of public funds, DASNY does need to be certain that bond proceeds are paid only to organizations that are deemed to be responsible. Full and accurate responses on the GQ will help to achieve this goal. This is why we request 2 authorized officer names and email addresses so that this GQ can be sent out through DocuSign. This grantee questionnaire will also be incorporated into the grant disbursement agreement once we get to that point. The submission of false information on the GQ could be a violation of federal and state penal laws. So please, please, please be sure that all responses are accurate. Financial review. This was discussed in the application process. If the grant does not fully fund the project, then DASNY must verify the existence of committed funding resources. Acceptable proof of such funding commitments may include evidence of another grant award, a board resolution committing the funds by the veterans organization, as well as a bank statement, or again, letters of commitment from a foundation or other entity. In addition, since DASNY is now administering this program on behalf of DVS, there is a payment on invoice option. This will allow a veterans organization to utilize the funds, the grant funds, to pay the vendor in the first instance instead of getting reimbursed for costs incurred. This is outlined in the FAQs, question C1, as noted on this slide. There are some steps that need to be followed, so it is requested that you review this information in the FAQs. And if you have any questions after reviewing the FAQs, please reach out to DASNY. An Office Environmental Affairs review is required under the State Environmental Quality Review Act. If it is a historical area, state historic preservation may also need to be involved. If you have any questions regarding the seeker review, you can reach out to our Office of Environmental Affairs using the email address on this slide. More often than not, the veterans organization projects are going to be considered type 2 under the State Environmental Quality Review Act. Therefore, our Office of Environmental Affairs may not need to reach out to you. Once all the documentation again has been returned, our processor is going to review the grant funded project to be sure that the project can be considered bondable. That means no repairs, all projects have to be capital in nature, and if necessary, we will reach out to our bond and tax counsel to verify if it is acceptable to be bonded. If that is the case, the timing of the bondability review could vary, again, depending on the complexity of the project. Once all reviews are completed and the processor has determined that the organization project does comply with the program, a number of desk audits will be conducted. The processor will review all documentation once again. and then submit it to their manager for review. If the manager finds that everything seems to be in order, it will go to DASNY's legal counsel to make sure that everything, again, is in order. Once the desk audits are completed, DASNY will coordinate with DVS for a final approval and request for funds to be made available to DASNY. The grant disbursement agreement, once we get that authorization from DVS, will be sent to the grantee, the awardee, the veterans organization, via DocuSign. We will need to know who the authorized officer will be that will execute that GDA, because the GDA will be sent to that person first. We will also need to identify, the veterans organization will need to identify an attorney that will then opine to the signature of the authorized officer, but also opine to the organization being authorized to do business in the state of New York. Once the GDA is fully executed, the GDA will be returned to the grantee, and at that time, the grantee or the veterans organization can then submit for reimbursement using the requisition exhibits that will be in the grant disbursement agreement. Again, it is highly recommended that you review the frequently asked questions that were sent to you in the award letter. Any additional questions regarding the award process or this presentation may be directed to our call center team at the email address listed on this slide, or by calling our grant hotline at 518-257-3177. Thank you and have a great week.